because the birds ate from stolen foods. They peck wherever they find. It's not necessarily, but that was thrown off the altar, and it was put on that Bais Hadeshin, so that didn't go on the altar. Okay. But what about the wine, the libation? The Kainim did not drink that; they poured it. It went straight on the altar. But that goes l'shitin. That doesn't go onto the fire. There were little tubes that in the altar that went down into a chamber underneath where the wine would get stored there, and it would dry up. And every 70 years or whatever, they would have to clean it out, chisel it off. L'shitin azli. It goes into the shitin, which are these tunnels. But my bazu. So what are you saying that with this? What are you trying to tell me? Everything has to be teaching us something. The Gemara learns the Mishnah the way the Mishnah or the Medrash would learn the Psukim. That every word and everything needs to be teaching us something. Lafukim id Shmuel. It's coming to exclude a statement of Shmuel. The Amar Shmuel knows we do not agree with Shmuel. The Amar Shmuel, hamisnadav yayin, someone that offers wine on the altar, so it doesn't get poured down the holes. What gets poured down the holes? The wine that comes along with offerings. But if someone offers independently just wine, let me just give wine to the temple. So that would get burnt on the altar, would be poured. Maybe mizalfe al gabi ishim. Shmuel says that gets poured onto the fire. You would have to pour it slowly or else it would put out the fire. But Kamash Malan, our Mishnah says that no, because we gave a list of things that the Mizbeach has over the Kayanim, and if this would be poured on the fire, then that would be part of the list. And since it's not part of the list, it means that we disagree with Shmuel. What do you do with it? Kamash Malan de l'shitin asli. That it goes that we poured it down those tunnels where the wine goes under the altar. Messiah l'Shmuel, however, it is a proof to another statement of Shmuel. This is sort of like appeasement. The Amar Shmuel hamisnadiv shemen, that if someone offers oil to the altar, independent of anything else, so kaimtzai, you do kmitza on the oil, v'shiyarav ne'achalan, and the remnants get eaten. How do we see that? Well, we didn't say that the Mizbeach gets it, or the Kayanim get it. We didn't say that this is the strength of the Mizbeach, or this is the strength to the Kayanim. It must mean that part of it goes on the Mizbeach, and part of that goes to the Kayanim. The commentaries here were very interesting, because they were discussing how is it possible to do kmitza on oil. And they said, well, it congeals. Put it in the fridge. Well, they didn't say the fridge, but there's interesting things about if you have mixtures of forbidden mixtures, something, and oil falls into something, can you remove it by putting it in the refrigerator and waiting for it to separate, and then you just remove it, and you can separate things like that. Very interesting discussion. But what was especially interesting here was that one of the commentaries said, let me see if I saw it in this Gemara here. This is great. The Taisus Yom Tov. This is what they bring. They bring that the Taisus Yom Tov is a student of the Maral, Rabbi Yom Tov Lipman Heller. So he says it's impossible to do kmitza on oil. Rather, they would use a vessel that was the size of kmitza. 2 kazesim. It was machlekes, one and a half or 2 kazesim. So the Yad David asks, he says, why? What's the problem? It's a proof. He proves from Taisvus that you can do kmitza. Don't ask how it's possible to do kmitza on it, because it congeals.
Olive
oil will congeal. So he says that it's possible that the Taisus Yom Tov lived so far from anywhere that they had olive oil, he never saw it. That was cute. Is it only olive oil? That
Is the
congealed?
olive oil that congealed considered oil? For example, is that kosher to bring it on his bed?
Yeah, well,
I mean, when you have
according to
real
this Yad
korban-
David, that's what he means. That he's saying that's the pshat. Because Shmuel over here says that if someone offers olive oil, so you do kmitza on it, you offer the kmitza up, and the rest goes to the kayanim. So the Tais Yamdu says, how do you do kmitza on olive oil? It must mean that it means you do the size of a kmitza in a vessel. He says, no, it congeals. That would be a pshat. That would be the teretz to the Tais Yamdu. Much nicer than saying he never saw olive oil. It's much nicer to say he didn't hold that that's olive oil.
But Taisus clearly says, "Aval yain tohu v'ifshal l'kamsa." That implies that oil is not solo v'efshal l'kamsa.
Right. That's it. That's the Yad David's right. Okay. Shtei alechem v'lechem apanim. Those were two things that are given to the kayanim, and the mizbeach gets nothing from it. The suleka, those are the only things that are given to the kayanim, and the mizbeach gets nothing. The 2 loaves of bread and then the showbread. V'ika chatas ha'oif. The chatas ha'oif, you do malika on it. You put the blood on the altar, and the kayanim eat it. The Gemara says no ikadama. The blood goes on the mizbeach. It's not counted as it goes totally to the kayanim. But what about the oil of the mitzvah? It's put on his thumbs, and his big toe, and then it's put on, and then it's given to the kayanim. It says, well, ikamat naisaf. What about the applications of the oil on the thumbs? So omay bazu. So what does he mean to say with this? This is the strength of the kayanim over the mizbeach. Lafukim manda amar. It's coming to exclude the one that says that shtei alechem bais b'fnei atzman l'sreifa asyan. Machlekes, I believe it was Rabbi Akiva and Rabbi. I'm sorry, Rabbi Yosef. If you don't yet, it is Rabbi Akiva. If you have Rabbi Akiva said that the kvasim are not makiv the lechem. The sheep are not makiv the bread, and the bread is not makiv the sheep, which means that you could bring them independently on their own. The other opinion said that no, you can't bring them on their own. If you do bring them on their own, then they just get burnt. So the chiddush here is kamash malan the bezuya fekayach kainim la'ilam, that we don't say that. We say that even if they're brought on their own without the sheep, for whatever reason they didn't have the sheep, you bring them on their own, the kainim still get them, and it doesn't get burnt. The question was, what is matir the bread? That was the question. If you don't have sheep, that the slaughtering of the sheep, so what allows the bread to get eaten? What service is there? The sheep and the bread came together. 2 sheep with 2 loaves of bread on Shavuos. So one opinion was, then you just have to offer the bread entirely on the altar, and, or it gets burnt because nothing is matir. Other opinion was, no, it goes to the kainim. And we're saying here that it goes to the kayanim. That's what we're saying, that bezu yafekayach kayanim mimizbeach, that we get it. Okay. The next Mishnah says, Kol Menachos anasis bekeli tunei shleisha matanis. 3 applications of oil are put on a mincha that goes into a vessel. I'm sorry, shleisha matnes shemen. Let's see, I have to read it. 3 applications of oil. One is yitzika. You have to pour oil on it. It's very out of order. It does the last one first. Yitzika is you pour oil on it at the end. Belila is the middle one. You mix oil into the flour. Umatan shemen bekeli koydem lasiyasan. And you have to put oil into the vessel before you start, sort of like you spray the pan. So you have to put oil in first, then you put oil in together with to mix it, and then once it's mixed, then you put oil on the top and you put it on a certain shape or whatever. Okay. Chalais. That was the minchas that we came in a vessel. And which menachos are those? That would be machavas and marcheshas. What about the mincha that's mafetana, that's baked in an oven, and then it's brought? So what they would do is they would break it up into small pieces because you had to do knitz on it. They would crumble it. So, boilalan, they would mix the oil in after it was crumbled. And that's Divrei Rabbi. And V'chachamim Maimrim, the sages say that soiles, that it wasn't, that the oil was mixed in before it was baked. And the question is, was it baked and crumbled and then you mixed the oil in? That's Rebbe's opinion. Or was the oil mixed in initially before it was baked? Hachales to a nice balila. When you bring this type of mincha, which gives you two options, it's called mafetana, it's baked in the oven. You have two options. Either you bring chales, loaves, or you bring crackers, wafers, rikikin. So it depends. What's the difference? What's the difference in the service here? So the chales, the oil is mixed in. Rikikin, if it's wafers, the oil is smeared on top. Mishicha. The oil is put on top, sort of like a butter on the top. Keitzad Moishchan, in what shape do you smear the oil on? You know, so you can put it in. It wasn't smeared from side to side like we butter our bread. It was smeared on in a design. So Kamin Ki. Ki is a Greek letter. It's either an X or an L or.
U.
What do they have there? Did they tell you?
Mainly a U.
A U.
Like a kaf, you know, a U.
Uh-huh.
Fu. Rashi says like a test.
A test. Okay.
Test upside down. It's closer to a U.
Uh-huh.
No, chayui.
I have over here that in Rashi and Chumash says it's a nun. In Krisis, Rashi says it's an X. In Hoyrius, he says it's a Ches. Taisva says that Rashi says it's the shape of a Gimel. You see, Ki could be an abbreviation for the word Kaf Yavanis, the Greek Kaf. Now, the Greek letters could be like our letters, evolved, you know, the Aleph, our script Aleph is like this with a line. So originally, the Aleph, the line was more in, so it'd be like this with a line going through it, which is the A. When you turn it sideways. So, in the letters evolved, the thing, old script, old writing. Okay. And the rest is eaten by Kayanim. The Gemara asks, mai, when we say that you need 3 matanas, the mincha that's brought in a vessel, you have to put 3 applications of oil. What are you coming to exclude? Amar Rav Papa says, Lamuti minchas mafe. We're coming to exclude the mincha that's baked in an oven does not have 3 applications of oil. It only has 2 applications, which means that you mix it in, and then you pour you put the oil at the beginning, and you mix it in somewhere, but you don't pour the oil on top. Does that make sense? It's exactly the opposite. It doesn't have the pouring on the top. That's what it says. It doesn't have the pouring on the top. Keitana Rabbanan. The rabbis taught in a Bais, v'minchas marcheshes karbanecha. If you bring a mincha in a deep pan, soilas b'shem and teyasa, you have to bring flour and oil. Malamit shetuna matan shemen bekeli. This means that you need to put oil in the pan. Karbanecha l'gzeira shava. Now the word karbanecha, it says karbanecha by the marcheshes, by the deep pan. It says karbanecha by the machavas, by the flat pan. And that's called a gzeira shava. When we have the same word in 2 places, I'm able to learn the laws of one to the other. Ma'kan matan shemen bekeli. Just like by the minchas marcheshes, by the deep pan, we're taught that you have to put the oil in at the beginning. Aflalan matan shemen bekeli. Also by the machavas, you have to put the oil in the pan, like you grease the pan, before you start. Mala halan yitziko belila. Just like by the machavas, you need to do the pouring of the oil at the end, and you need to mix the oil into the flour. Afkan yitzika belila. Also by the marcheshes, you have the pouring of the oil at the end and mixing it into the flour. Okay.